I am Julie Roche, and I come from a family of artists. Both my mom and my dad are artists. My mom was quite an accomplished portrait artist, and she did landscapes and oils. And my dad was a professor at Colorado State University, and he was an accomplished poster artist. And I myself have a degree in graphic design from Colorado State University, so that's my background. My main passion, of course, is the animals, my show dogs and my show horses. But that in turn led to me doing animal things and art. At one point, I was stranded and had a friend that was doing sculpture. And as I was angry at not being able to get home, she pulled out some Sculpey, and I started working with Sculpey. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and it calmed my brain. And so when I got home, I did some more of it. And then my husband and I both decided that we wanted to take some pottery classes because we thought it sounded like fun. And we found that, and we were living in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the time, and we found this wonderful place with these wonderful teachers. They stretched what the word for pottery was, turned it into sculpture and other things. We did things like double-sided bowls, and the one instructor did Abraham Lincoln impressions on pots. That were big sellers, but it was all kind of stuff that was more sculptural than pottery, but using the pottery to do it. So that's how I started doing it. And I started having people wanting me to do dog show trophies. So I do a lot of Afghan hound dog show trophies, and Afghans lend themselves very well to it because they have a lot of hair. Skinny legs are a big problem. So if you can do things with the hair that fill out designs and make things thicker, it just makes everything a lot better. My husband is quite accomplished at throwing, and he helps me do it. So he will throw me a pot, and after he throws the pot, I have to let it get leather hard. Like this one, this one's ready to go. It's leather hard, and you know it's pretty okay. It's called greenware, so it's still very fragile, but it's where I can carve. And you know, I've always kind of wanted to be a wood carver, but I never thought I had the patience to do it. This is kind of like that because it's an add and subtract. So you add stuff and you subtract stuff, and all the subtracting is like carving. You have all these different tools that you learn to use that help you. And when I want to add some hair, I use the rolling pin and roll everything out, and I have to have a slip, which is, this is a very messy thing to do. If you don't like to be dirty, you better not try to do it. And what you do when you want to add a piece is you rough everything up and get it wet again, because that's the way it sticks to itself. So if I wanted a piece of hair there, that's how I would do it. This is one that I've already got done. So I've done that process with the whole thing. So this is called greenware, and it needs to dry for about, golly, if it's thin, it can dry for about 3 or 4 days, but it's best if it dries for about a week before you put it in the kiln. Because if there's any moisture inside at all, it will expand when it gets hot and it will blow up. A big piece, so it needed to be dried for at least a week. And you have to get the bottom dry too, so a lot of times I put them on something like this so that the air goes underneath them, so the bottom dries as well. Now we put it into what's called a bisque, and it's just like this. You don't have to do anything to it. It just goes in, and when it comes out, it looks pretty much like this. The glazes, or the clays, different color clays fire differently, and the color they are when you start isn't always the color they are when they come out of the bisque. So after they come out of the bisque, they look pretty much just like that, and that's when you have to glaze them. And it's a process. You have to, we usually wax the bottom so the glaze doesn't stick to the bottom of the kiln. So you have to do that first, then you have to rinse them, then you have to let them dry for about 10 minutes, and then you glaze them. Some glazes I paint on, most glazes I dunk because it's too hard to paint in all the ins and outs of the hair. You know, you just can't get into it. And some I paint a little bit and then dunk in others. So if I want a black mask, I can paint that on, and then I can dunk it in the color, and it'll get all in. Then you have to put it back in the kiln, and it takes about a day for the firing to go all the way up and all the way down, and you have to let it cool before you take it out. or everything explodes. The finished pieces I have, this is a Chinese crested. I did the whole Chinese crested national specialty. That took me like 2 years. There were so many. And these are Afghan sculptures. And most of the sculptures I do with recycled clay. And these big ones are hard to do because if they're too thick, they also blow up in the kiln. This is one of my favorite glazes. I call it black gold because it's black that goes gold. You can do lots of nice things with the glazes. Glazes react differently. This is a nice glaze that floats. It's floating blue on top of jade green, so it does interesting things. And this glaze back here, when you crisscross them, this is actually black and white. And so where the black and the white cross, it goes blue. Yeah. So it is interesting to learn all the way these work. The glazes are all chemicals, and it's all chemical reaction. I couldn't possibly tell you how it works, but you just have to learn it. Subscribe to Art Stories on YouTube, and you can have a chance to win one of my pieces.